What's up, everyone? This is Bruno with 360. So we've got our guests starting to join for this Ask the Expert session. So we're going to have, again, a lot of fun. And I hope you guys have got lots of questions. And please ask us pretty much anything. And I'm sure these guys will answer it. They'd better. So. And again, we don't have one Patrick, but we've got two Patricks. So in the meantime, okay, Chris, if you can show that slide. So on LinkedIn, feel free just to chat together with all the registrants of the event. And actually that chat will not appear on the StreamYard. It's just going to be exchanged within the rest of the community of the event. So I think we were about 1,000 today to register. So that's something very nice to be doing. Anyway, so for this third session of the day, so it's going to be ask or talk to the expert, ask us anything. So, well, Keith, you want to introduce yourself very briefly?
Sure. My name's Keith Johnson. I'm a Chief Technology Officer for CB On Data, based here in Northern Virginia. Glad to be here.
Pauline?
Hi, I'm Pauline Lancaster with 360 Suite. I'm a pre-sales engineer, and prior to joining, I've been here 5 years, and prior to joining, I did work with BusinessObjects as a consultant for about 10 years, and I'm also near Keith as well in Northern Virginia.
Patrick, well, which one? So for Patrick from Protiviti.
Yes, thanks, Bruno. I'm Patrick Neesmith. I'm a director with the SAP Data and Analytics at Protiviti, based in Atlanta, and been working with BusinessObjects since about 2003. And I don't know if you can call me an expert, but I'm hoping that this tweed hat from Kilkenny will at least make me look like I know what I'm talking about today.
And if it doesn't do the job, I see that you've got a special fridge behind you, so we'll work it out.
Exactly. I will neither confirm or deny if there's Guinness in here.
Well, we know. And then Patrick.
So Patrick Sims, hi everyone. I'm with SAP. I'm with our Global Center of Excellence for Analytics. I've been with the company about 19 years. I came from BusinessObjects side of the house, and in Shamrock theme, I'm the third prong of the Northern Virginia contingent today.
By the way, just before we get things started, we'll have a quiz at the end. So we've got lots of fun questions that we'll be asking, and again, just you'll need to go on the link that we'll be sharing, and you need to be quick to answer to earn as many points as possible to get the gift cards. There are some fun questions out there. So guys, anyway, thanks again for all joining, and so to the audience, please feel free to put comments in the chat box. Okay, so overall, I've got actually a first question. For you guys in terms of upgrade, how many upgrades, like Keith, have you ever done, have you done in your life, just by curiosity?
Wow. That's a great question. More than a few, less than a lot. I've been on the technology stack since the inception back in 2001 with Crystal Enterprise. So, upgrades all along that way. So usually there's, probably less than half a dozen per year. So I don't know, well, we're at over 50 or so, or 60. So, and that doesn't include all the sort of the internal ones, right? You go through prior to doing a customer's upgrade. So you understand what challenges you may be in for, and how to work through them. So,
I think Pauline, prior joining 360, you were a consultant, and I think you've done quite a few migrations, upgrades.
Yeah, upgraded starting with version 5, going to 6.5. The earlier ones were, pretty drastic differences. And then going to, what was it, XIR, was it R2 after that? And then all the way to 3, 4, version 4. So yeah, I've done a lot, but yeah, not probably, definitely not hundreds, but yeah, per environment, you count up the environments, you count up, you mess up one time, you got to do it over again. So it adds up for sure. Had my share.
Patrick,
Yeah, like Pauline, probably hundreds of them, going back to BOBJ 5 and 6, pre SAP, all the way up to today, getting people up to 4.3, and even the new Business Objects PCE, which is their Business Objects in the Cloud offering. Was called EX up until a month or so ago, but we're helping several major clients get to that as well.
Are you saying that SAP just changes occasionally names?
I know, who would think? It never happened before.
It's shocking.
We can probably start to take bets for the next name change. So it's a bad joke. And then Patrick Sims.
I mean, since I'm on the product side of the house, I tend to do it only when I need to upgrade my VMware.
Lucky you.
Exactly.
So in terms of questions, I know it's always a good debate. Do you guys have got any comments to do? Should you do an upgrade, in place, side by side? Any comments on that, KJ?
I would, depending on how long a system has been in place, if it's fairly new, I would usually stick with like an in place for the most part. If it's been around for a while, then I would definitely recommend a separate installation and a migration over to that new installation. It's a nice way to do some housekeeping and sort of clean up the dirty laundry that's been accumulating for years. So that's usually sort of a good start to figure out where you want to go. I don't know. Anybody else have a rule of thumb for that?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think a lot of times though we would, especially for, more major releases or point releases, service packs, yeah, I'd say do those in place, but major releases, we tend to recommend, put it on new servers, especially since most people are using virtual servers anyway. It's pretty easy to spin those up, and it reduces risk. And we're at Protiviti, we're all about reducing risk. So, yeah, that would be my recommendation there. Especially now going to BOBJ PCE in the cloud. We are recommending that clients do an upgrade on new servers on premise first, and then migrate over to PCE. And the reason we're recommending that is that the PCE product runs on Linux, and most people tend to have BOBJ running on Windows on premise. So that gives us an opportunity to get it onto Linux first, make sure we work out any kinks there before we try to move them up to the cloud.
Patrick Sims, any recommendations around that?
No, I mean, I think that sounds about right. The one thing I would add, though, or emphasize, I think, when Keith spoke about, checking on the dirty laundry, I think that's something that we hear internally that enough people don't do. They don't take the opportunity for an upgrade to actually review what they've got in their repositories. And I think that's a great message that people should take to heart.
And talking about that, any good practices then in terms of cleanup prior doing that type of work? Is this something you recommend, don't recommend? Thoughts on that, thoughts around backups?
No, I think you guys probably, since you do it for real, you probably have the better thoughts on that.
Yeah, KJ, Patrick?
Yeah, we certainly always recommend, that you try to use the opportunity of an upgrade to clean up things that aren't used. That's why we love when our clients are using 360 Suite, because that helps us to identify stuff that's not used, users maybe that are no longer really active, and we can do some cleanup before doing an upgrade, which is only going to make the upgrade go faster and smoother, and it's less to test too.
Right. That's the key. Yeah. Not moving things that don't work in the current environment. You want to, get rid of those, or no one's run. And if you pare down your environment, you're going to see improved performance. If you have less documents, makes everything, backups, everything a lot smoother. So it's definitely a good opportunity to do that cleanup.
And typically what we see with customers, it's always a good idea because you just reduce, the size of the pie, and it's a lot easier to be moving. So I just start to see questions coming in, so that's cool. So the first question I have is actually around what is ROMB Analytics? Has SAP acquired it, and is it integrated with SAC?
So ROMB we've deprecated now, so we're not further developing it. At first, when we acquired them, it was going to be our strategy to have that be the mobile development platform, but instead they proceeded with building one for SAC instead. So ROMB is no longer really a thing for us from a new innovations and roadmap standpoint.
And that was around mobility at the time. What was the
Yep.
Right, if I recall.
Yep, all mobility. Yep.
Okay. And by the way, in 4.3, has mobility improved?
Yes.
Because it's always a concern, for business users. And
yeah, the Webby experience is still going to get even better in 4.3 and subsequent service packs. But yes, in general, the 4.3 mobile experience is better than 4.2.
Okay, let's take another question from Eamon. Did you think this was a good idea from SAP to release 4.3 with many features are missing until SP2, and then ask them to upgrade? So I know that we know that in the first service pack there were things missing, and you guys have got any comments? I think, for example, KJ, I think you were involved in an upgrade recently. I know we had a chat on that.
Yeah, and I would say is, it really depends on your customer environment, right? What features and functionality are you using? The BusinessObjects platform is, there's a lot of feature functionality with it, and every customer is different, right? You have the core pieces, right? But not everybody uses everything. So I really think that comes down to more of a customer by customer kind of basis. We've got a couple customers running on 4.3 now. I think the new Fiori interface, now that, again, this hasn't happened in about 10 years, right? So the last time we all had to deal with this was back when we upgraded to 4.0, right?
Yeah.
All of our customers had to go through that relearning experience to the BI Launchpad. They're going to have to do it now with the Fiori interface, as well as being able to leverage the new Webby interface as well, which I think in itself is a great opportunity, right? To be able to leverage that new interface for developing reports, or especially your ad hoc self-serve kind of users. So I do think, to upgrade now is a good thing for certain customers. There may be other ones that are leveraging, some of those features that aren't supported yet, that Patrick from SAP covered this morning on the Service Pack 2 presentation. But again, I think that really comes down to a customer by customer kind of discussion.
Patrick Sims?
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, from a corporate standpoint, I think it was important for us to release it to at least let people know that we were not kidding. We're real about maintaining BOBJ and keeping it up and showing where we're going with the modern UI and user experience. So yeah, even though there were some flaws in the first service pack, yes, I think it was a good move for us to do.
And Pauline, what are we hearing from customers in terms of 4.3? Things improving in that regards?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, I've mostly talked to people that are in the planning phases. I think the big thing is the Fiori Launchpad. So, it's, get it installed and start letting users take a look at it before you move over, because it's a big learning curve, right? So it's totally different interface, and so it's a good opportunity to, maybe you're not necessarily ready to go to 4.3, but at least you get it installed, maybe in a sandbox, and have users test and begin to get familiar.
Yep, I agree. We're seeing that as well. There seems to be a lot of fear around the new look and feel, and yeah, one way we're kind of helping to alleviate that is, by starting off with a sort of a sandbox install and letting the business user spend a little time with it to get familiar with it, and then they're realizing it's not that big of a deal. It's intuitive, and so it's just getting them familiar with it.
While we take some more questions, I'd like to hear from the audience. What are their biggest challenges when they do upgrades? So please, just put some comments around that, because we know, upgrades. That's always these are complex projects. So
and while you're getting those questions, Bruno, I might add that, we've mentioned it before, but for those who are on 4.2 Service Pack 5 or greater, you can actually start to sort of test run the Fiori BI Launchpad with the early beta versions, if you will, that are available out of the box with 4.2. So you can get people to at least start to think that way with the big tiles and what the design kind of looks like. And that's pretty much no fuss, no muss on the side of you guys.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's take a question from someone from YouTube, from Kev. Will there be an on-prem version of SAC? Is there any plans around that?
No. SAC is built from the cloud, for the cloud, all about cloud. So.
Hey, by the way, I've got to tell Pauline, I know she's got kids, same as I do, and the fact that we're live on YouTube as well is our kids always want to say, hey, what do you want to do in the future? Oh, I want to be a star on YouTube or whatever. So I'm not sure if we're stars or anything, but we're not.
If you can tell me how to monetize this, my kids will be very proud of me.
So I would say, you'll look cooler. In fact, my daughter was texting me earlier and just telling Bruno, Dad, you're on YouTube. That's cool. So at least I won't sound as old anymore. So
you're hip, Bruno. You're hip.
I'm sure all the audience that's got kids. They probably all say the same thing. My daughter, she's listening. She's going to tell me, Dad, what are you saying? We've got a question from Kim. What sort of issues have you seen moving from Windows to Linux? So that's always a
So the main issues are going to be around security. You're having to move from LDAP or from AD to LDAP, and then also with SQL Server connections, you have to use the Data Direct connector. So those are the types of things that we see. Not major issues, but there's certainly things that you have to take into consideration when you're moving to Linux.
Any comments around that, Pauline, KJ?
Yeah, just I supported a Linux environment for many years, and the challenges we typically had were that less people used Linux, so I always waited at least for a service pack or maybe a patch just to make sure that anything got worked out, because the majority of customers using business objects are on Windows, and so they the issues get fleshed out sooner. So yeah, Kim, I would just make sure you're into a release that has been out for a while, has maybe a service pack or patch, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. One thing, I've heard from customers, one concern about, Linux is that, just like that, they don't have the people in-house that understand the Linux operating system and know how to support it. The nice thing, though, with PCE is that SAP is taking on ownership of that OS level maintenance. So they're supporting that. So you don't need to have those resources on your staff.
Yep.
That's good.
KJ, any comments around that?
No, I mean, most of our customers are on Windows. So, we haven't really run across Linux all that often.
Okay. Yeah, in general, from what we hear is don't be the first one.
and honestly, we thought that was kind of interesting.
Have to, but that's always a valid principle.
Yeah, we did think it was sort of interesting, though, that SAP's BOBJ PCE is only running on Linux right now, and even on Azure, they're putting it on Linux. So I don't know if that's going to change in the future. SAP, Patrick, I don't know if you maybe have any insight.
I haven't really seen any insight into why the data centers are doing what they're doing, so I don't have anything on that one, Patrick.
I'm wondering if that's got to do because of heck.
Probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting. There was actually a question I got a text earlier from actually one of our customers who was from Jawahar, who was asking, well, you know what, with Explorers being phased out, we still got all these Explorers. Is there any workaround around that?
So the hard way would be to try to replicate the Explorer kind of UI in Lumira, which we've seen done.
Mhm.
The easy way would be to take that as a moment and a use case to move to SAC, because the Explorer interface is part of the data exploration capability within SAC. So taking your existing universes, and it's nicer too, because all you need is a universe. You don't have to create an info workspace for it. You simply point it at that universe and start using the Data Explorer.
Yeah, I completely agree. We're recommending that the clients who are using Explorer, move that to Analytics Cloud.
Well, I know he was trying to find a workaround, and I told him, actually, I'm not aware of any workaround. I know Infosol had a solution around that, but I don't know much more. We've got a question from John Clark. Why is there a feature for reporting Webby from UNV to NX, but there's none for Crystal reports?
I suppose I have to answer that one, and the answer is I don't really know why. I mean, I suppose it's because traditionally Webby is semantic layer based, whereas Crystal has really only been more universe focused since the dawn of Crystal Enterprise. So, but I don't know what the plans are in terms of, as we move down the 4.3 pike, whether we'll continue to do that with Crystal as well, but I would imagine we will.
And you can always get 360, so that will.
There you go.
Well, sorry to say that. That's it's a core functionality that we have. So yes.
Actually, I'm happy to hear that there are people who like to use universes with Crystal.
Yeah.
Most of my traditional Crystal folks are all like, no way.
Actually, funny behind the scene, came to your question earlier. I had Patrick Perrier who was saying, you might be better off to stay on Windows. That was his recommendation to you, knowing your environment. So that was what he was thinking. Let's take another question. We got a question from Mohan. One of my customers is using only Crystal reports. Can they upgrade to 4.3?
Sure, if they're licensed for it, then yes. I mean, as long as they got licensed via the business objects side of the house, and we're not talking about Crystal Server. That's a whole different animal from a licensing standpoint.
Are there any limitations in 4.3 around Crystal?
No, it's just like before, you install with Crystal Now 2020 and Crystal Enterprise, so you're still good to go with both. In fact, Crystal got some upgrade as well in 4.3, so it's all 64-bit clients now, as well as some other additions.
And I see a comment from Siva who's saying, there are a lot of options in 4.3 that are missing in Webby. Is this still the case? I know there were issues before, but I think pretty much that was fixed.
There are some. We covered them this morning in the earlier session where we looked at a laundry list of things that were missing in Service Pack 1 that are coming back in Service Pack 2. And by the way, for those who were listening this morning, the FTP question, I got a note from product management that they have confirmed that FTP will be back in Service Pack 2. So you'll be able to publish to FTP now as well.
Nice.
Cool.
Matthias is asking, what is the status on live universe connection from SAC to BOBJ?
It exists today. In fact, it exists starting with 4.2. So the universe connector itself, though, has gotten better in the 4.3 release. So it's now live universe connector 3.1, and it can get to both universes and Webby data models.
Okay. Do you have any recommendation? We see another comment from Wiki. What are the good practices of migrating Webby reports to SAC? That's a pretty wide question.
Right. So remember, first, the first thing is you're not going to migrate content, right? You're not exporting out of Webby into SAC. It's more a matter of, do you want to try to replicate that Webby document in SAC and move forward, or would you like to take what you've got in the Webby document and simply use SAC as an extension where you might add what if or predictive or AI, ML type stuff, or some of the smart features that we have, or planning, those kinds of things. So it really comes down to what your use case is in terms of what you want to do with SAC.
Yep, completely agree. And we see, Webby and Analytics Cloud being complementary.
Absolutely.
People still are going to need, Webby and business objects for scheduling reports, bursting reports out to thousands of users, all of that type of stuff. But it's when you want to get down and get some new insights, and let take advantage of AI and ML and things like that. That's where Analytics Cloud really shines.
Yep. And that's such a key point. They really should be looked at as complementary.
Yep.
And as I said this morning, don't look at it as replacing, look at it as a way to extend Webby.
Yes, exactly.
KJ, any suggestions on that?
No, I mean that they pretty well covered it. I mean,
so when I was asking earlier a question to the audience around what are your challenges when you do, in business objects, or when you do an upgrade, we've got actually Darius who's mentioning, it's content migration. So please feel free, by the way, to put comments around that. Pauline, anything to say around that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times customers have issues if they are moving their users and groups. Before you sync up if you have LDAP or Active Directory, make sure you can configure it, but don't sync it so that when you do the promotion, it's not. You want to be able to get your user content over, and if you do it out of order, if you've already synced the users, they'll have different CUIDs. So sometimes that's what I see the most is so I usually recommend they can remove it and then redo the migration, doing it in the correct order. We talked about that in the last session about the 4.3 upgrade. Make sure you get your security over first, access levels. If you're going to do it in pieces, get your access levels, your groups and users over first, so that when you move your content, the appropriate security gets applied correctly. Those are some of the things that.
Yeah, I would also say, try to stay as current as possible. I'm not suggesting you always be on the very latest service pack, but I see a lot of customers get way behind on their upgrades, and they just become more and more challenging the further behind you get. We just finished one last year of a client that had 20,000 reports and still on 3.1, and 12,000 of those were Desky. It was a large project. So yeah, that's kind of my recommendation, is to at least try to stay as current as possible, and your migrations tend to go a lot smoother.
Especially because I would say from our own corporate standpoint, we are, the love is back for BOBJ. So there are a lot of people who stayed on 4.0 and 4.1 and missed all of the great things we started to do with Webby again in 4.2 Service Pack 3. That's when we started getting more visual with it again, brought back some of the love. So, there's a lot you can miss when you skip some of these service packs.
Yep. Thank you very much. Yeah, KJ, you had a word on that?
No, I mean, just all I'll add is, our sweet spot is sort of the federal government, right? And federal government is always usually doesn't tend to be on the bleeding edge, right? They like to be on the edge, but maybe not necessarily the latest and greatest service packs. But yeah, I would say, even for our federal clients, is we try not to get any older than anything, after a year and a half. You want to make sure that you're applying service packs within that window. Otherwise, yeah, you get too far out of date, and then it becomes a larger effort for those updates. So.
Or you get forced, if something's no longer working. I mean, I remember one
Right.
year the browser it was a version of IE and it was being updated and we were so far behind, then you don't get the planning. You just have to go, depending on, the compatibility. So, yeah.
Question from, okay, I'm sorry, I probably won't say the word or your name properly, from Umama Ishwara. Can we migrate BOBJ 4.2 report to universes to SAC?
So once again, migration is not, SAC was built in totally different technology. And so there's no conversion / migration in that sense. But your existing 4.2 universes can be used by SAC with the Live Universe connector, as can your Webby documents. As of Service Pack 8, you can start using the Webby data model piece as well. And so those can be used as data sources for SAC.
And in general, what we see for customers that went the SAC route is typically they keep BOBJ for their traditional reporting for these scheduling capabilities, which frankly are phenomenal.
Yep.
And when they've got like data viz in general, then they'll start to leverage SAC. Is this, Keith, something that you see in general?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, SAC is still a little bit slow for adoption in the government just yet. I'm hoping I'm hoping that this year we'll finally start to see some adoption or more adoption than there currently is. But yeah, I would agree. Leverage business objects for your workhouse reporting, right? Financial reporting, I'll call it the standard reports that run your business. And then SAC becomes your sort of end user or ad hoc interface, as well as, allowing some of the, we deal a lot with financial folks. So the what if analysis or, leverage those kind of cool capabilities that are in SAC and really start to understand how they can help your business.
As we all know, it's not sexy, but every company, every agency still has those bulk reporting needs, right? Yeah. So it's not getting all the love and attention like the, ooh, look at this cool visual kind of a thing, but it's still very important. And that is still, a fantastic piece of the BOBJ platform side. And some people do like to be offline too. I like to play with my WID instead of having to be online somewhere too. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've had a lot of clients add Analytics Cloud. I haven't had anyone, get rid of business objects.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say that's what we have, internally as our intelligence. Most people are using the hybrid notion versus rip and replace.
And at 360, of course, we've been supporting the BOBJ community forever. We also now support we got some software working as well for Tableau, and then we'll have BI. But the thing is, I have to say is, let's say 2 years ago, we all heard, we're going to go away from BOBJ, and you've got all these great things with Tableau, etc. And that was really like a hype. And then we were just looking at them, give it a shot. And, of course, everybody now has got multi-BI. But what happened is people realized that they were really dependent on BOBJ scheduling. And they really needed, to have reports. Of course, you need to have these dashboards, but at the end of the day is if you need to execute things, it's not, you really need to get the information that are actually in the Webby reports. And what we've seen so far is just in general, there is nothing that comes close. And as a result, all these deployments, there are not that many that went away, or some did try. We've seen that a couple of times, but at the end, typically the story is, I want to go away, get rid of it. And the final story is, well, you know what? I'm going to leverage BOBJ. I'm going to leverage the universes. I will continue to use the scheduling, but I'll use another solution to do the dashboards. That's typically what we see, and that's the reality of it. And we see these stories all the time. So, and in terms of, I was talking to a very large deployment. I think they've got like over 200,000 users. And we were exchanging around the reliability of the scheduling BOBJ. And I think they were like, what, at 99% or something like that. It was extremely high. I don't know, KJ, Patrick, Nismith, would you agree with these?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, and the other thing we see is we've got a lot of clients that that embed business objects in their own applications.
Yeah.
A lot of times those are client-facing applications. And they're not going to redesign that anytime soon, for sure. So they're going to stick with BOBJ.
And there's, the other thing too is I don't see there's any reason, we've toyed with this house as well as customers is you can incorporate, URL links out to those other BI tools, and I'll leave them nameless at this point. But
thank you for not cursing at the Keith like Bruno did.
There's no reason you can't embed those URL links within the Fiori, Fiori Launchpad or 4.2 Launchpad, right? Mm-hmm. And access those other tools for running reports or dashboards or whatever. So I mean that's what makes the Launchpad so flexible. You can still utilize it as sort of a cross. I'll use it in double quotes, but sort of a cross-platform BI interface.
And Analytics Hub is built for that. In fact, a couple of Sapphires ago, there were people who were more interested in Hub for that very concept, Keith, than there were people who even wanted to move to the cloud for SAC. So,
yeah, you've got a good point. And actually, Hub is very easy to use, and it's very nice. I feel it's not known enough, but it's an excellent idea, and it works great. Just one comment as well for the audience that has been looking at other BI solutions is just make sure that you stay in compliance with SAP. Just don't go behind the universes. It's not something that we recommend doing for sure. So just make sure you remain compliant. We've got a question from Sven. Will it be possible to reconnect an existing Webby report to the new semantic layer in SAP Data Warehouse Cloud, just like reconnecting different universes in HANA/BW?
So that's all still in the drawing board. Once we get to the common data model piece from Data Warehouse Cloud, then we will definitely be hoping and looking for ways for BOBJ to be able to connect to that as well, but we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. A question from VJ on YouTube again. And any difference between the Webby calculation engine behavior of 4.2 and 4.3?
Not that I'm aware of. And as we've said before too, any of your 4.2 content, the key thing for the upgrade is that you don't have to do anything to that content before you go through the upgrade. So all of your functioning Webby documents will still function in 4.3. So I can't imagine that there's been any sort of negative impact in terms of the calculation engine.
Sometimes I like to say that's always like a box of chocolate. It's always looks good. Sometimes there's always you taste that's not as good. That's why you need to do regression testing. So
sometimes pieces melted in the box, right?
Well, you don't see it, and VJ, that's specifically one of the reasons why people they get 360 bind. They want to check on that, and then if they find a regression somewhere, then they do an impact analysis to try to find out what other documents, for example, are impacted. So it's that's a proper practice. So don't assume it's always perfect, and that's part of the job, and that's why we're all here today. So. Okay, we got a question from Darren. Commentary seems not to be working in 4.3 SP1. Will that get fixed in SP2? I've got no clue.
What is it?
Commentary.
That I don't know. I thought it was supposed to be working in Service Pack 1, so I have not played with commentary myself.
KJ?
I got nothing on that one. All I will say is I would highly recommend taking a look at what's been updated in the patch 300. So since Service Pack drop in December, right? There's been 3 patches very quickly. So the last one dropped this past weekend, right?
Yep.
Or a weekend ago. So there's been a lot of like little fixes we've noticed. So I would, what I would do is recommend running back through that patch list on the SAP support site and just double checking that. I haven't kicked the tires on the commentary stuff in SP1 yet.
Maybe if the audience has got some answers to that, since we don't have it, please feel free to answer. And if not, that's probably a question we can take offline to the product after that. So, so sorry, we don't have the answer. By the way, someone's asking, will there be a recording of this morning's sessions? Yes, there will be. And it's going to be on LinkedIn and then on 360 Suite YouTube channel. So it's available there, and just go on it, and all the recording of today and from the past as well will be recording there. So feel free to visit it on our YouTube channel, 360 Suite. Okay, Noel is saying, so that was referring to the question I had asked around challenges. So Noel is saying major upgrade challenge is that we do it rarely, and there is always a big learning curve. So yeah, I think it's the same for everyone. One thing I think we can definitely recommend is each time you're finished with your upgrade, always plan for the next one. Make sure that you keep these good practices. Make sure that you clean up your environment, you archive the proper content, keep good habits, because very often people say, hey, I'm done with the project, I'll do it in 2 years, 3, I'll do it in a few years. And people, they all forget about all the good practices that they put in place. It's like, the December 31st things that you decide to do for the coming year. Week, probably most people forgot about. So it's the same thing when you do an upgrade. Just yes, it doesn't happen that often, but just keep the good practices. Clean up your environment, do the proper things just to plan for the next one. And this morning, in fact, we were talking around, UNX. Damn, just go to UNX now. Just don't wait until the last moment, because there'll be other things that you haven't thought about. So if you can, plan it now.
Amen, brother.
I will say, though, as technologists, right, I think, doing upgrades, we have more tools at our disposal. If you look back, 5 years ago or even a little closer than that, when we did upgrades from 4.0 to 4.1 or even 4.1 to 4.2, just the ability to and it was mentioned earlier, stand up virtual machines, stand them up, deploy, test, rip them down, rebuild is so much easier nowadays than it was 5 years ago, right? Or a little bit later or a little bit older than that, when we had to have physical servers, right? So just the ability to run through sort of test scenarios before you do it for real, I think allows us to get a better handle on upgrades or the impact of those upgrades than we did prior, right?
Yep. Yeah, and also I'd say, certainly work with a partner, whether it's us or another
Absolutely.
partner. I mean, we're doing these upgrades constantly, so we're running into the issues, long before most people are, and we know, how to get around them. So I'd say, one, work with a partner. Also look at managed services. I know we offer that. A lot of other partners offer managed services, and we include upgrades as part of that offering. So instead of it being a big deal and you having to figure out where's the money going to come for it, it's already budgeted, it's already built into your managed services contract. And then the last thing I'll say on that is, bringing up the SAP BusinessObjects PCE offering, which is moving business objects to the cloud. SAP's taken on that those upgrades for customers now as well. So, yeah, let somebody else handle it. Don't make it your problem, and then handle more frequently.
Talking about the PC, just to be clear, yes, SAP will be handling all these upgrades. The thing, though, is companies like CB on Data, with whom Keith is, or Protiviti, company with whom you're with, Patrick. Basically, if you go down to the administration, to the testing, all that actually is not handled by SAP. So it's handled by yourself, or you need to hire a company like CB on Data or Protiviti to do the job on that.
Yep.
So it's not like, yes, you've got the upgrade, but you still have all the other work, testing, daily activity, etc.
Absolutely. And I will say on the testing piece, using a tool like 360 Suite, it allows us to do much more thorough testing. We can test all the reports, and it's more accurate because it's doing it programmatically rather than just somebody pulling up two reports and comparing them visually themselves. So that's going to help you as well.
It's a no-brainer at the end, is you're able to automate your testing. It's like, you don't want to take that risk.
Yep.
So if you can, just test everything, and you're just drastically going to remove the risk. And at the end, nobody wants to be doing testing. It's a pain. It's costly to do. I think we've all done some testing. It's just we all know it's not a fun thing to do. And eventually you'll ask your business, and your business will say, well, no, or yes, I did. And at the end, no, nobody does it. So that's the sad truth about it, but we've got to be realistic. Question.
Well, before you go there, Bruno, I will add, as the corporate guy, the BOBJ partner community, as evidenced by the 3 companies shown here, are the best in the business. And really, you guys all really do journeyman work in terms of helping with things like upgrades and some of the stuff that's not as, cool as other things sometimes. And you've all been great, partners along the way.
Thank you. And frankly, we try to support the community. So
just
as being today, is we try to share knowledge.
We have the gray hair to prove it.
So do I, unfortunately.
Well, the good thing is at least we still have hair.
That's true.
We're joking about RCO doesn't have hair anymore, and we used to joke. He used to do regression testing before founding the company for a big oil and gas company, and we always used to joke where he was actually working in the basement of the big building. And he would need to go up to the last floor to go and print all the documents and then just check them side by side. Mm-hmm. And then he would joke saying, I just lost my hair doing that. And that's why I wanted to do regression testing, because it was so painful to do. So he said, it's not something that's well suited for humans. True story. It's we actually, on one event we did years ago with Pauline, we took RCO's new picture, and then he gave us his old picture from his driver's license that was super old, and then we showed that during the event. It was pretty fun, and Pauline was saying, "Damn, Bruno, you're going to get fired for doing that." But he's a funny guy, so he didn't mind about it, and it's quite true. So. We got a question from Kimberly. Major upgrade issue. 4 in place is the complexity and number of servers in our infrastructure. 4 new server upgrade. Again, is it the complexity and customization in our systems? We are looking to modernize and resize in the coming months. Who wants to take that question?
Yeah, I mean, well, when doing an upgrade, I think it's definitely a time to look at your server sizing. We're seeing people. A lot of customers are able to consolidate into fewer servers, whether they're virtual or not. So I think an upgrade is certainly at the time to look at that, and that actually ultimately helps reduce some complexity.
Any other comment? Let's, after that, take another question. It's just time is flying. I didn't see time.
Yeah, I don't, from an architecture perspective, there's not a whole lot, I would say the core bolts haven't really changed. So again, with this question, it all depends on, what version are you migrating from, but the overall architecture of business objects really hasn't changed within 4.3 per se. There are some nuances in terms of, the RESTful web service in terms of authentication for the Fiori Launchpad. So there are some sort of basic tweaks, but the basics between having separate web app servers or separate app servers, or even supporting servers, those pieces really haven't changed overall. So at least it's a good thing, right? The things still sort of work the same way, but there are some smaller tweaks kind of under the hood in regards to that.
I hope it helps. And Kim, if we haven't answered your question, just feel free to send me an email and we'll get you an answer. Let's take a last question from John. Hey, John, long time. Good to have you on. I hope all is well. So you got a question. So, SAP doesn't have a migration path for universes to SAC. With on-premise support ending 2027, well, we could talk about that. Wouldn't be prudent for SAP to have a roadmap. I can't see all the companies rebuilding universes, that's for sure.
So first off, 2027 is not a hard date. That's the starting point from the first release at 4.3. So that's why we say in all of our stuff that it's at least 2027, if not further. I'm sure, as we're looking at DWC and some of the other things we're doing internally that have already been mentioned, we will be looking at ways, and we've tossed around ideas on ways to have the universe be something that can sort of live on outside of just the BOBJ platform, if that's where we go. But right now there is no death knell for BOBJ. There's no end of life that we're saying for anything like that. So, if and until we get to that point, I think sticking with the universe is not a bad idea.
And there's nothing about the end of life there is actually that is still extended.
Yep.
It's like since 4.2, I think since the intro, there was some miscommunication. Since that time, everybody says, well, is there going to be a next version? Well, listen, it's just been introduced.
Right.
And there's still so many customers on BOBJ, frankly, they're not going to go away, John. So,
yeah.
And Bruno, when are you scheduling that 4.4 demo?
Let's ask Patrick.
I'm hoping we skip 4.4 and go to 5.0 just for fun.
I don't know if by that time we'll still have hair or something.
You'll have pulled it all out by then. Yeah.
So anyway, just to close on the session is KJ, do you want to say a few words around CB on data just as a very high level, and after that we'll ask Patrick to do the same.
Just CB on data. We're a financial BI company based here in Northern Virginia. Our focus is our federal customers and the government.
Yeah, and in Protiviti, we're a global consulting firm. We do everything from risk and compliance consulting to BPI to technology consulting. We have a strong SAP practice, and we'd love to work with some of you folks on the phone.
Awesome. So, guys, it was great to have you, and